Tonight I want to speak softly, the way truth sometimes arrives, not with noise, but with a quiet heartbeat you suddenly notice. Because there are moments in life when everything you believed was already written changes, not loudly, not dramatically. Just one person, one presence, one unexpected connection, and suddenly the world feels different. I used to think the future was just a road you walk alone, making plans, chasing goals, trying to become someone better day by day. But somewhere along that road, the idea of a future wife stopped being just a distant thought. It became something deeper, music, something that could change the way you see tomorrow, the way you understand love, and the way you understand yourself. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. How one person you haven't even met yet, the woman who will one day stand beside you, can quietly change everything about the future you thought you already understood. There was a time when the future felt like a long, empty road. Not lonely, not sad, just wide and open like a highway stretching beyond the horizon with nothing but silence and possibility. I walked that road with plans in my head, dreams in my pocket, and the quiet belief that life was mostly about becoming stronger on your own. I believed that independence was the ultimate form of freedom, that standing alone meant you were unbreakable, and that everything you needed could be built with your own two hands and your own stubborn determination. And for a while, that idea felt enough. Days turned into months, months into years, and life kept moving forward the way rivers do. You wake up, you work, you chase something meaningful, you try to become a better version of the person you were yesterday, and somewhere inside that routine, there is a quiet acceptance that the future is something you build piece by piece, brick by brick, mostly by yourself. But then something changes. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just slowly, like sunlight entering a room through a window you forgot was open. You begin to realize that somewhere out there in the vast unfolding story of tomorrow, there is a person you have not met yet. A woman whose life is moving forward at the same time as yours. She is living her days, facing her own struggles, laughing at things you have never heard, dreaming dreams that somehow will one day align with yours. And the strange thing about that realization is how gentle it feels. It doesn't arrive like thunder. It arrives like a quiet thought that refuses to leave. The thought that one day there will be someone who calls the same place home, someone who calls the same place home, someone whose footsteps will echo in the same hallway, is someone whose laughter will fill the silence that once felt normal. And suddenly the future doesn't look like a road you walk alone anymore. It looks like a path that eventually becomes wide enough for two. You start noticing small things differently. The way a sunset looks when you imagine sharing it with someone who understands why you stopped walking just to watch the sky turn gold, the way a quiet evening feels when you imagine another heartbeat nearby. Someone who doesn't need words to understand that silence can also be a form of conversation. You realize that love isn't just about grand gestures or dramatic moments. Sometimes love is the idea that someone will one day know the ordinary details of your life and still choose to stay. They will know how you take your coffee in the morning. They will know the songs that remind you of memories you never fully explained. They will know the way your voice sounds when you are tired, when you are hopeful, when you are trying to be brave, even when things feel uncertain. And somehow, those small things will matter more than achievements, more than applause, more than achievements, more than applause, more than applause, more than the endless race of proving something to the world. Because when you begin to imagine a future wife, you are not just imagining a future wife, you are not just imagining a person. You are imagining a different version of life itself, a version where the victories feel warmer because someone is there to celebrate them with you, a version where the difficult days feel lighter because someone quietly reminds you that you are not carrying everything alone, and that thought changes something deep inside you. You begin to move through life with a little more care. Not because someone is watching, but because someone will one day share the results of the choices you make today. You start building things differently, not just for yourself, but for a future you will both live inside. You think about the kind of home you want to create, not just walls and furniture, but a place where kindness lives in the air, where respect feels natural, where laughter arrives easily and forgiveness arrives even faster. You begin to understand that love isn't something you simply fall into. It is something you slowly prepare yourself for. And somewhere out there, the woman who will become your wife is also preparing in her own quiet way. She might not know your name yet, She might not know the shape of your voice or the way your eyes soften when you see someone you care about. But life is shaping her experiences the same way it is shaping yours. Every challenge she faces is teaching her strength. Every disappointment is teaching her patience. Every moment of joy is teaching her how to recognize happiness when it appears again. And one day, those two journeys will meet, not because the world planned it perfectly, but because sometimes two people simply arrive at the same moment in life where they are ready to see each other clearly, ready to recognize something rare. When that moment comes, the idea of the future changes again. Beck, your life and the noise turns into music. All the future stops being something abstract. It becomes something shared. You begin to imagine ordinary mornings where sunlight slowly fills the room, while two people wake up knowing they chose each other again. You imagine quiet conversations at night when the world outside is loud, but inside the room everything feels calm. You imagine arguments too, because love isn't perfect, but even those disagreements carry a strange kind of hope, because both people are still standing there trying to understand each other instead of walking away. And in those moments, you understand something important. The future wife you once imagined isn't just a romantic idea. She becomes the person who will witness your life the closest. She will see the best parts of you, the parts you proudly show the world, but she will also see the moments when you are unsure, when you doubt yourself, when the strong version of you needs a little quiet support. And the miracle of love is that she stays, not because life becomes easy, but because she believes that walking through it together matters more than escaping. When things feel complicated, that realization changes the way you see commitment. It stops feeling like a heavy promise and starts feeling like a gift. The gift of knowing that out of billions of people walking this planet, two lives somehow crossed paths and decided to keep moving forward side by side. And the strange thing about imagining a future wife is how it softens the way you look at tomorrow. Tomorrow stops being something you have to conquer. It becomes something you want to share. The dreams you chase start including space for another person's happiness. The plans you make begin to include someone else's comfort, someone else's laughter, someone else's sense of belonging. And when you think about it long enough, you realize that the idea of a future wife doesn't just change your future, it changes who you are becoming right now. Because love has a quiet way of asking you to grow before it even arrives. It asks you to become more patient, more understanding, more capable of listening, instead of always trying to be right. Music, it asks you to become the kind of person who can protect someone's heart without trying to control their spirit. And that transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, through reflection, through mistakes, through learning how to carry responsibility with grace instead of fear. Some nights you sit alone and imagine what that future moment might feel like. The moment when you look across a room and realize that the woman standing there isn't just someone you care about. She is the person you want to build an entire lifetime beside. Not just the exciting days, but the quiet years too. The years filled with routines and shared memories and small traditions that only the two of you fully understand. You imagine the way time will move forward together, the way two separate stories will slowly merge into one long conversation that continues through seasons, through challenges, through growth. And somewhere deep inside that thought, there is a calm certainty, a belief that the future holds more than individual achievements. It holds companionship, partnership, partnership, music, a bond that makes the world feel a little less heavy because someone else is carrying part of it with you. And when you think about all of that, you realize something simple but powerful. The idea of a future wife isn't just about romance, it is about transformation. It is about realizing that love has the power to reshape the direction of your life without forcing anything, without demanding anything, simply by existing as a possibility. Music, a possibility that one day the door will open, two lives will meet, and everything that once felt separate will slowly begin. Music, to feel connected. There comes a moment in life when the idea of the future begins to feel different. For a long time, the future feels like something distant, something abstract, almost like a landscape hidden behind fog. You walk forward through your days doing what you believe you are supposed to do. You build your goals, you chase opportunities. You try to understand who you are and who you are becoming. Most of the time, those thoughts revolve around yourself. Your dreams, your struggles, your ambitions, your struggles, your ambitions, your fears. The path feels personal and solitary, even when there are people around you. And then something small changes inside your mind. It begins with a thought so quiet that you almost ignore it the first time it appears. The thought that one day there will be someone beside you who will share the rest of that path, music, a woman you have not met yet, or maybe someone whose presence has not yet fully revealed its importance, the person who will eventually become your wife. That thought might seem simple at first, almost ordinary, but if you allow it to stay in your mind for a while, it starts to shift the way you see everything around you, because suddenly the future is not just about where you will go, it is also about who will be standing next to you when you arrive. And that small shift begins to change the way you see yourself. You start to notice your habits differently, the way you react to difficult moments, the way you speak when you are frustrated, the way you treat people when life becomes stressful. These things used to feel like private details of your personality, small behaviors that only affected your own life. But once you imagine a future wife, those details begin to carry a different weight. Because one day someone will see those sides of you closely, not just the confident version of you that appears in public, not just the strong image you show to the world, but the quiet and unguarded version that only appears when the day is over and the world has stopped watching. You begin to understand that love is not simply about finding the right person. It is also about becoming the right person. It is also about becoming the kind of person who can care for someone else's heart. And that realization slowly transforms the way you make choices. The hours you spend, the things you prioritize, the habits you allow to grow inside your life, because you begin to imagine that the future you are building will eventually become the environment where another person will live with you. The home you create, the energy you carry, the way you approach problems and responsibilities, all of it will shape the life you share with someone else. That thought brings a quiet sense of responsibility, but it also brings something beautiful. It brings purpose, because suddenly the effort you put into becoming better is no longer only about personal success. It becomes part of preparing for a partnership that will one day exist. You begin to imagine the everyday moments that come with that partnership. Simple moments, ordinary moments, morning light, entering a room, while two people slowly wake up and begin another day together. The quiet comfort of drinking coffee across from someone who understands your silence. The feeling of returning home after a long day and knowing there is someone who cares about how that day unfolded. Those small moments begin to feel incredibly meaningful. Those small moments begin to feel incredibly meaningful. You realize that love is not always found in dramatic scenes or cinematic gestures. Often it lives in routine, in presence, in a quiet understanding between two people who have chosen to stay. And when you imagine your future wife, you begin to imagine that kind of presence. Someone who will see the long process of your life as it continues to unfold. Someone who will witness your victories, but also the mistakes and the uncertainties that come with being human. You realize that marriage is not about perfection, music. It is about honesty. It is about standing in front of another person without the need to pretend that you have everything figured out. It is about sharing the real version of yourself and trusting that the connection between you is strong enough to hold those imperfections. The thought of a future wife invites you to grow in ways you may not have considered before. It invites patience because relationships require time, listening, and understanding. They require the ability to step outside your own perspective and see the world through someone else's eyes. It invites humility because no matter how confident you may feel about your opinions, there will always be moments where love asks you to pause, to listen, and to consider that someone else's feelings matter just as much as your own. It invites courage because opening your life to another person means allowing vulnerability to exist. It means accepting that caring deeply about someone also means accepting the possibility of pain, disagreement, and challenge. But despite those risks, the idea of sharing your life with someone still feels worth it because love creates a kind of meaning that cannot be replicated by achievements alone. Achievements are powerful. Success can feel rewarding, but at the end of a long journey, those things are often more meaningful when someone you love is there to share them with you. You begin to imagine building a life together step by step, perhaps starting with simple dreams, a small home filled with laughter and warmth, conversations that stretch late into the night, plans about the future that slowly evolve as both of you grow older and wiser. You imagine learning from each other because two different lives bring two different sets of experiences, two different ways of understanding the world. And when those perspectives meet with respect and curiosity, they create something richer than either person could create alone. The thought of a future wife also changes the way you see love itself. Love stops feeling like a temporary emotion and begins to look more like a long term commitment to growth. It becomes the decision to keep choosing the same person through different seasons of life, through different seasons of life, through moments of joy and moments of struggle, through times when everything feels easy and times when patience becomes necessary. And slowly you begin to realize that love is less about finding someone perfect and more about building something meaningful together. A shared history, a collection of memories that grow year after year, the first places you travel together, the challenges you overcome side by side, the quiet traditions you create that make your relationship feel unique and personal. These memories become the foundation of a life. And thinking about that kind of life changes how you look at the present moment. You start paying attention to the kind of partner you would want to be. Would you be supportive when your wife pursues her dreams? Would you listen carefully when she shares her worries? or frustrations? Would you remain patient during moments of disagreement? These questions begin to shape your character because preparing for love means becoming someone capable of nurturing it. And somewhere out there, the woman who will one day become your wife is likely going through her own process of growth. If she is learning from her experiences, discovering her strengths, and building her own vision of the future. She might also be imagining the person she will share her life with, someone who respects her individuality, someone who values kindness and loyalty, someone who believes that partnership means walking through life together instead of competing for control. And when those two journeys eventually meet, something remarkable happens. Two separate stories begin to merge into a shared narrative. Not instantly, not perfectly, but gradually. You learn how to communicate. You learn how to support each other during stressful moments. You learn how to celebrate the good times without taking them for granted. Each day becomes a small chapter in a much larger story, a story built on cooperation, empathy, and the simple decision to keep moving forward side by side. The thought of a future wife also reminds you that life is not meant to be experienced entirely alone. Human beings are naturally drawn toward connection, toward companionship, toward the feeling that someone truly understands them, beyond surface conversations. Marriage, at its best, represents that deep level of understanding. It represents two people who have chosen to create a safe space for each other in a world that can sometimes feel chaotic and unpredictable, a place where honesty is welcomed, a place where mistakes are forgiven, a place where mistakes are forgiven, a place where growth is encouraged rather. And when you think about all of that, the idea of a future wife becomes more than a romantic dream. It becomes a vision of partnership, a partnership, a partnership, a partnership that changes how you approach your own life.